1. The Milgram Experiment. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram wanted to test obedience to authority. Volunteers thought they were in a study about memory and learning. One person, the teacher, was told to shock the learner whenever they made a mistake. The shocks weren't real, but the teachers didn't know that. As the learner screamed, begged, or even went silent, the experimenter in a lab coat calmly insisted, "Please continue." Shockingly, 65% of participants obeyed and pushed the switch to the maximum voltage, believing they might be killing someone. The Milgram experiment revealed how ordinary people can commit terrible acts if ordered by authority. It raised disturbing questions about free will, morality, and human nature, especially in the shadow of World War II. Today, it's considered one of the darkest but most important psychological studies ever conducted. 2. The Stanford Prison Experiment. In 1971, psychologist Philip Zimbardo set up a fake prison in Stanford University's basement. He recruited students to play either guards or prisoners. At first, it was just role play, but within days, things spiraled. Guards became cruel, inventing punishments, humiliations, and even physical abuse. Prisoners broke down emotionally, crying, rebelling, or sinking into hopelessness. Zimbardo himself, playing the prison warden, got swept up in the illusion and failed to stop it. The study, planned for 2 weeks, had to be shut down after only 6 days. It showed how quickly normal people can transform into abusers when given power, and how easily victims collapse under control. The Stanford Prison Experiment has been criticized for ethical violations, but it remains a chilling reminder of the thin line between role and reality, authority and cruelty. 3. The Little Albert Experiment. In 1920, psychologist John B. Watson wanted to prove that emotions could be conditioned, basically taught like habits. His subject, a 9-month-old baby known as Little Albert. At first, Albert happily played with a white rat. Then Watson started pairing the rat with a loud, terrifying noise, striking a steel bar behind the child. Soon, Albert began crying at the mere sight of the rat, even without the noise. Worse, his fear spread to other fluffy things, rabbits, dogs, even a fur coat. This experiment proved that fear can be artificially created, but it was shockingly unethical. Watson never attempted to uncondition Albert's fear, leaving a baby potentially traumatized for life. Today, the Little Albert experiment is infamous, not just for its findings, but for the complete lack of concern for a child's well-being. 4. The Monster Study. In 1939, researchers in Iowa conducted what's now called the Monster Study. They wanted to explore the origins of stuttering. 22 orphan children were divided into 2 groups. One group received positive speech therapy, encouragement, praise, and support. The other group was told their speech was bad, criticized constantly, and pressured into perfection. The results were devastating. Some children developed severe speech problems, anxiety, and emotional trauma that lasted their entire lives. The experiment earned its name not because the kids were monsters, but because the scientists who designed it acted monstrously. It's one of the darkest examples of how science can dehumanize vulnerable people in the name of knowledge. Decades later, the University of Iowa publicly apologized for the harm caused. The Monster Study is now cited as a warning about the ethics of experimentation. 5. The David Reimer Case. In the 1960s, a boy named David Reimer suffered a botched circumcision that destroyed his genitals. Psychologist John Money saw this as an opportunity to test his theory that gender identity is shaped purely by upbringing. He convinced David's parents to raise him as a girl, renamed Brenda, and claimed the experiment was a success. But David never felt like a girl. He hated dresses, rejected the identity, and grew increasingly depressed. Eventually, he learned the truth and transitioned back to living as male. Sadly, the trauma from years of forced identity, combined with public exposure of his story, led to his suicide in 2004. The David Reimer case shattered the idea that gender is only nurture. It's remembered as a tragic warning about using real people's lives as psychological experiments. 6. The Landis Facial Expression Experiment. In 1924, psychologist Carney Landis wanted to map human emotions by photographing facial expressions. He exposed college students to various stimuli: smelling ammonia, looking at pornography, even watching beheadings. Then came the darkest part. Landis handed them live rats and ordered them to decapitate the animals. Most students, reluctant but pressured, complied. Those who refused were forced to watch others do it. In the end, Landis discovered nothing useful about facial expressions, but he traumatized dozens of students and killed animals for nothing. This experiment is infamous not only for its cruelty, but also for being scientifically worthless. It shows how research can cross lines into pure exploitation when ethics are ignored. Today, the Landis experiment is a symbol of how curiosity without morality leads to pointless horror in psychology. 7. MK-Ultra mind control. During the Cold War, the CIA launched one of history's most disturbing projects, MK-Ultra. From the 1950s to the 1960s, they secretly experimented on thousands of unsuspecting people, hoping to find ways to control the human mind. Methods included LSD dosing without consent, sleep deprivation, sensory torture, and even hypnosis. Some participants were psychiatric patients, prisoners, or everyday citizens who never agreed to be test subjects. Many suffered lasting psychological damage, and some even died. When the program was exposed in the 1970s, the CIA destroyed most of the records. Still, what we know paints a chilling picture of government abuse. MK-Ultra is infamous not just for its cruelty, but for how little accountability followed. It remains a terrifying reminder of how fear and secrecy can justify horrifying human experiments. 8. The Bystander Effect Study. In 1968, psychologists Bibb Latané and John Darley wanted to understand why people sometimes fail to help in emergencies. Inspired by the infamous Kitty Genovese murder in New York, they staged fake crises: smoke filling a room, a person collapsing, or cries for help. What they found was shocking. When people were alone, they usually acted quickly to help. But when others were present, most froze. Responsibility seemed to diffuse across the group, leading everyone to wait for someone else to act. This became known as the bystander effect. It revealed a disturbing truth. In crowds, people can become passive, even in life-or-death moments. Today, the bystander effect is taught in psychology and used to explain real tragedies where groups fail to intervene. It's proof that safety in numbers isn't always real. 9. Harlow's monkey experiments. In the 1950s and 60s, psychologist Harry Harlow conducted infamous experiments on baby monkeys to study love and attachment. Infant monkeys were separated from their mothers and given two artificial mothers, one made of cold wire holding a bottle, and another soft cloth-covered figure without food. The monkeys overwhelmingly clung to the cloth mother, proving comfort and affection matter more than just survival needs. But the cruelty didn't stop there. Some monkeys were isolated in cages for months or even years, leading to severe psychological damage, rocking, self-harm, and inability to socialize. While Harlow's work revealed the critical importance of emotional bonds, it came at a terrible cost. His monkeys suffered lifelong trauma. Today, Harlow's monkey experiments are remembered as both groundbreaking and horrifying, a prime example of science advancing at the expense of compassion. 10. The Robbers Cave Experiment. In 1954, psychologist Muzafer Sherif set up a summer camp in Oklahoma with 22 boys who didn't know they were part of an experiment. At first, the kids bonded. Then Sherif split them into two groups, creating the Rattlers and the Eagles. He sparked rivalry through competitions, which quickly escalated into name-calling, fights, and even raids. The boys became hostile enemies, until Sherif introduced crises that forced cooperation, like fixing a broken water supply. Slowly, teamwork dissolved the hatred. The Robbers Cave experiment showed how easily groups form prejudice when resources are scarce and how shared goals can rebuild peace. But it was deceptive. The children had no idea they were manipulated. Today, it's used to explain tribalism, nationalism, and how quickly humans turn us versus them. A disturbing but eye-opening study.